picking up on. It's like a trend that I've been seeing, and one of the most interesting things is in South Africa we're chasing uh, AI, right? And in our pursuit for artificial intelligence, a lot of people are like, okay, but what happens to the call centers of the world, sales, if everybody's going to do everything online? And if you go and look on LinkedIn, there's still so many call center jobs out there in your Americas, your UKs. So I think we need to wait first before we see, oh, sorry, wait first and let us see what those trends are like before saying, okay, let's change the entire system. That's just me.
Wow, that was actually a mouthful take. And you made a lot of good points there. So I concur, though I tend to diverge where there needs to be a change in our education system. I believe that we're already in that change phase. I don't believe there needs to be change. It's already in effect. That is my belief. Because if you can actually see now, back then people would study media and whatever you call it, anything related to TV and all of that. But now people can learn that in like 10 minutes on YouTube, how to actually start creating your own content and not actually rely on TV. Come through, boy. Don't worry. This is the coffee for Maurice, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's for Maurice. Thank you so much.
I actually thought Tommy flipped,
Tony.
and then you ended up going the other side. So yeah, in order for you to be on TV, either as a director, a producer, or anything of the sort, you kind of needed some form of qualification, right? And I mean, now people are directors without those qualifications, and they've acquired education on the internet, right? Would you then say the system has continued to stay the same, or are you talking about people that literally go to classroom education?
Yeah.
And that system particularly?
Yes.
Well, definitely that one needs to change, eh?
So regarding the education part, as you mentioned, education is knowledge that is taught, right? And then on the other end, there's a recipient, right? So the person that actually teaches, the teacher, right, was taught by someone else, right? So it's something generational, and I would think that yes, it needs to change because over generations, something like this particular syllabus or way of teaching continued. You get what I'm saying? And I would like to bring it back home to South Africa. That is why one of the reasons we also had the 1976. You know, the 1976, am I correct by
Hector
that?
Peterson.
The riots,
Yeah.
right? Educational riots with obviously Hector Peterson and stuff. So there was a good cause for it. But again, if we look at the education itself, has it progressed or did it go down?
Yeah, I think it didn't progress. Yes, there's been the online learning that
Which one
definitely
is
has
this?
progressed.
Oh,
Thanks, brother. No, good luck that. Thank you.
The education is definitely, in my opinion at least, not progressed.
it has not
It
progressed.
has not progressed. The online systems, yes, definitely, because I mean, if we're looking at how learning takes place now digitally, that's definitely a step up from what we used to. Old class, green boards with white chalk and all that type of stuff. There's
Yeah.
definitely an improvement. The good thing about internet is that you can access anything online. You can teach yourself. Or
Yeah.
you can, someone gives you the information and you can learn from it.
So just a question from me. When we say the system needs to change, which system are we referring to exactly? And then I'll answer that.
I'll tell you what I want to see happen next in our education system, right? First of all, I'm not the biggest advocate of classroom education, right? I don't believe a kid who's into creating should be bombarded with math, with science, right? With history. With all of these things put together that are in contrast, in direct contrast, because that actually aids to some form of confusion, right? Now you end up taking your best time off what you're very good at and what you should be fine-tuning. You are dedicating it to something that you're most probably not going to need.
You know what Picasso said about that?
Huh?
He said, all all children are artists, and then we lose it by education or something.
No, so it
like
was
that.
actually Einstein. He said,
I'm glad someone can come
Einstein,
in here and
Einstein
correct
said
it.
that everybody is born a genius, but if we judge a fish on its ability to climb a
Yes.
tree,
Yes.
it'll live the rest of its life believing it's stupid. So the reason why I asked the question, what we believe, or what system are we referring to? So I'll use my son as an example. He's 6 years old, and he knows fractions. He's in grade R, or he finished up with grade. So was it the system, or was it the specific school that he's gone to that's invested in that, that's given him the basics? I mean, yeah, I am 2 children later, married, and a whole career, and I'm still struggling with fractions. And here's a 6-year-old telling me about fractions. What you have to do on the left, you have to do on the right. However, I'm not disputing your point. I think that's true. But is it the system? Are there enough places in South Africa? And I'm not going to go worldwide because this is home, right?
Yeah.
Are there enough places in South Africa that's actually going to give an artist
The
that
opportunity.
platform to express themselves? Because back to your point, back in the day, people used to go and study to be in media. Now you can do it in a 1-hour course or whatever the case may be, right? And then there was also another portion that came about the IT craze. Everybody started to be in IT. And then they saturated that market. And then that became, with respect to other to anybody out there, that became redundant almost. Because every second guy you turned to was in IT. So is it the system, or is it our own individual thinking, like even starting at home? Just from my side.
Look, I think those are valid points, because we cannot paint everybody and everything with the same brush. So we are mindful that there's definitely those outliers, right? But if we look at it holistically, we will then, sum it up based on the majority. So when we look at the system of in my opinion, again, education, right? What is the point of education? It's to guide us on how to live our lives.
Yeah.
Because remember, when we speak about education, I did not specify at this particular moment a tertiary or secondary or primary education. It could be a religious education as well, because you could go to school. You don't have to go to school, but you could go to like Bible school or stuff like that, and you just follow your religious paths. But on education itself, it's the imparting of knowledge to what you're saying from generation to generation, and some of that knowledge obviously becomes null and void because of time. So the point of education is to equip us to live a life whereby we are able to sustain ourselves and sustain our families. So if education is not allowing us to do that, then what's the point? If it's a system to score people and grade people and put people in categories and not allow you to actually thrive in things that you actually, good at, or you supposedly great at, or you could be great at, because it's also it's a tool to allow you to find yourself. So if it's not doing that, then again, what's the point?
But is that really the intended purpose for education?
That's what it's supposed to be. Because otherwise, it's not serving a purpose. It's not serving its purpose. Because then, to your point again, if you're having a student who's an artist, their strengths lie in artistry. Doesn't matter what it is, and now you teach them something totally different, accounting. It's like, dude, I don't want to deal with accounting.
I don't particularly take kind of your words about school being a place where you can get to find yourself. I think the school system sets the precedence and you then follow suit.
No, yeah. So look, I'm not saying at school you find yourself. Education is a tool that allows you to find yourself, not school.
Not school. Okay,
No.
okay.
Because again, school is just the building that we go to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
taught.
yeah,
But
sure.
you can be educated at home, and that's not school.
No, I agree with you. My thing is the education system, particularly schooling, right? The one thing that I would say I took out of it, it's discipline, right? There's no perfect self-expression. That perfect self-expression is denied, if anything at all, right? There is no freedom of choice, right? There is no adjustment to the individual. So you get judged by
The majority.
by your input and your output on something that you didn't even choose yourself, right? So you find yourself in this box now, and as soon as you discover that there are other ways where you can literally educate yourself, the education that we can find in books, because it's important that you also understand that education can be acquired within your own means, your own confines. You can get a book and read that book, and that book will teach you a lot than the 12 years maybe you spent at school or in school.
Again, back to my point. Then, what's the point of school?
Okay, and I think also you made mention of IT, right? Again, IT is still relevant to this day, and IT will be relevant in 50 years to come. One of the reasons why IT will always be relevant, it's because it's a forever changing environment, right? It's a forever changing environment. It's staggering to hear that your parent read the same book that you read
Yeah.
as a student. It's
Exactly.
like, what? You're talking about the same thing.
Exactly.
But in IT, I promise you'll never find that. If you do find it, it's because someone didn't take it upon them to skill themselves. There's always something. Everyone is talking about cloud now, as if like cloud is the in thing. Cloud is gonna come to a point where it's like, okay,
Ancient.
what else?
Yeah.
That is the territory of IT. Yes, X, come in.
So
The
to your
door is
point,
wide open.
yeah, to your point, where you mentioned like books that are read by you or was read by you in school, your parents read, right? And
Yeah.
that is where the whole generational thing comes from, right? And again, when this whole system was created, schooling, right? Was it for the good? Right? And again, I'm bringing it home. Was it for the good, or was it actually just to keep people boxed?
It's to
Right? No, the reason for that, and over the years, generational, the educational system has not changed rapidly, right? Compared to probably other countries. I've never been to another country, but I'm just assuming, let's say, outside, like in Europe or so. But here, if we look at our educational system, and if you see what happened, if you take note on about what's happening around us,
yeah.
it goes deeper than that. I'm talking about the reason for, the reason why people act the way they do.
Yes.
Because they've been robbed of education, good education.
Yes.
They've
can
been
I-
robbed of that. Yeah.
Can I say something here?
Say something, right?
Like, do you know that like the education system is more of benefit to the government than it is to the individual acquiring it.
Also,
Okay. Let's take a person, right, who dedicates just 4 hours of his day to whatever the task is, and he sits the rest of the day out, maybe doing other things, versus a day who has about 8 hours of his time occupied. In the eyes of an average or a normal person, who's doing right and who's doing wrong?
the one who's doing 8 hours is assumed to be
The
doing
one
right,
that's doing less hours, right?
is doing wrong.
No. The one that's doing less hours is more efficient in life than the one that's doing 8 hours. But in the eyes of an average person, a person that's been trained by this education system sees a person that has 8 hours occupied as you must be doing something right. The one that
Is struggling.
has 4 hours
He's
with-
lazy or he's playing
Oh,
around.
he's playing around
Yeah.
or
Okay, yeah,
he's not
probably.
productive with his time. So efficacy is measured by how much busy you are rather than how much free time you have. Whereas outside the education system, it's the direct contrast. The more time you have, the more efficient you are as a person. So if you're spending 8 hours of your time working, right, you are not different from the person that sat behind the desk for how many hours? We are trained to be like that. The whole day there, you go to school in the morning, you leave school afterwards in the afternoon, right? And then you come into the workplace. You do the exact thing because you were trained that way.
That it starts at 8 and it ends at 3:30 or 5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, I could finish a task within 5 seconds, maybe because I found other ways to, maybe a circumvention, and someone could work on that task the whole day. The one that's seeing as productive is the one that's working 8 hours the whole day. Why? We delivered the same output, I just did it quicker.
So are we going to change an entire system, or are we changing the perceptions that we need to manage around what people think is efficient or not?
It has to be both, because, like we're saying, there's a fundamental flaw in teaching people about things that is not relevant today. You can't have me reading a book that my great grandmother read as well, that was not even used in her life to make any form of difference. Because again, if education is supposed to help us through our trajectory, because remember, you don't get a
Though historians take exception.
no, yeah, the history is a different
Yeah.
story. Yeah, the history is a different story because there's obviously a reason for that. But if with education, it's a tool to open your mind to new possibilities, to see things differently from others. So it's not going to be an exact formula to say this is exactly where you need to go, but that's how it's being taught now. That this is exactly what you need to do. It's you go, you get up, you do your grades, you finish, you go to varsity, you get a job at this particular company, and you do that and all that type of stuff. If you look at the most successful people, or let's say Richard Branson is an example. I think it was grade 3 or 6 or something like that. He quit school because he had to look after his family. So now he became the breadwinner at such a young age. He then had to go through trials and tribulations by walking through life without having the formal education as we know it. But he learned from a different form of education. And then he became the Richard Branson that we know today.
Yeah.
So is it a testament to what he learned at school, or is it about whatever he learned, wherever he learned, that was valuable for him to get to where he is now? A lot of these billionaires we know, I won't mention names because we're going to go down a rabbit hole again,
Yeah.
quit varsity because they saw that it was actually of no use at
Yeah.
a certain point.
How far into their stories did you dig?
Well, fairly far, but I won't say that, I've spent my entire time going through every detail about their lives.
So the reason I'm asking is that, so I understand everybody's opinion around the formal education and what they're teaching now. Is there a need for change? Look, I can't really say in my opinion right now, yes or no.
Why?
But give me a second. So, but what I can say is that if you're going to measure somebody like Richard Branson, right, you also need to understand that you can't teach people entrepreneurial skills. You can try, and if it was that easy in a country like ours where the unemployment rate is that high, everybody would be an entrepreneur. So for me to say, okay, if we're going to have a conversation like this one, yeah, let's open it up and say, okay, if you want the system to change, what do you want it to change to?
I'm glad you said that.
Can I chime in because
Chime
I
in.
Sure.
have something interesting to say.
Bring your interesting stuff.
You know why independence is not encouraged?
No, why?
Because if you become an independent thinker, an independent person in life, right, then the
Nobody
government
will benefit
policies
from you.
will become null and void. We
So-
are the ones that are keeping the government policies alive. That's one thing you should understand. So once you become independent, I mean, you're paying your own employees, right? So that means that you can get tax breaks because you're already doing something the government should be doing. You are creating employment. So if you are creating employment and there's millions of us creating employment, do you think we'll have any capacity for government? Are we going to need government for that matter? Because everyone is self-sufficient.
And if everyone is self-sufficient, there won't be anyone having employees because everybody will be doing their own thing, and we would have a barter system as we had
There will
before.
always be
and that
employees.
we would make sure that there's a good.
There's always going to be employees, but there's certain employees that don't feel like employees, but rather feel like partners, right? You can't be a partner with government. You either working for government,
or you
Oh.
private.
yeah,
Or you private.
or you're private. Yes,
But
exactly.
even if, yeah,
In which case, if you work for the government, you are a public servant. You work for the public. You work for the people that don't work for government, the people that pay taxes, right? So that's where the schooling, education, and the government converge. Let's train them to think the same way so that we can keep them in the system for as long as we can. Because we do not encourage independence as government. Independence is bad news for us. What do you guys think?
So-
I
so-
feel like
You know,
government, I'm sorry. I'm not waging any war against you.
we just had to have a moment of silence there so Brian can set the record straight that certain people, we are not fighting against you. But why I also say when I look at this globally, right, I think about everything that's happening now. Energy crisis, water crisis, global warming. The list goes on and on and on. If we had a system that allows people to express themselves in a way that people are able to push the boundaries forward for the better, obviously. We want radical thinking in a positive way. We want people to solve problems because if we look at this computer or drones or aeroplanes, the Wright brothers and all these things, all the technology that has went into making this possible now. Think about what they were thinking about to get to this point. It's difficult to do that. How do you think that a chip is going to be able to allow this to do that and be able to communicate from point A to point B? It's obviously over a good couple of years that this has been developed. But the point of the story here is people have pushed the boundaries forward. So if everybody was on the same type of mindset to push whatever it is that you're doing, because again, coming back to what we said about Einstein, you know, at one point it was Albert Einstein and what's this guy's name? The actor / comedian, Charlie Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin. Yeah.
I think Albert Einstein. I think he went to USA, and he said the only actor that he wanted to meet was, if memory serves me correct, was Charlie Chaplin, and he said that He said to Charlie Chaplin, "What astounds me about you is that you don't even say much, but yet everybody relates to you. That's genius." And Charlie Chaplin returned and said, "But what astounds me about you is that you say so many things people don't understand, but yet they still admire you."
Can I say something that's perpendicular to your statement?
Say something.
Have you wondered why a mechanic can literally assemble a car that has been in an accident and beyond identification? They can assemble it and put it back to what it was originally, right? But wouldn't dare think about assembling a car of their choosing or to invent a car, but they can assemble someone's car that is beyond identification. You can't even see what this car is. They say, "Now I'll bring it back. It's gonna look like it was before." But they wouldn't dare think, let me build my own car. Why?
Because-
Why do you think that is?
Because the mind was not trained to be an independent thinker. You're
Yes.
using a system to follow the blueprint and do what it is that is needed to get it back to what you know it should be. But the independent thinking to push the boundaries, leaps and bounds forward to say, okay, I don't know what the world is going to look like in 10 years' time, but this is what I want it to look like in 10 years' time. And this is the invention that I want to pass through. And maybe people accept it, maybe people don't accept it. It's fine, but I'm pushing things forward. In 10 years' time, those things may be the things that we actually making use of. So if everybody was thinking that, don't you think we could have solved a lot of the crises that we had now? People are planning to go to space and all those type of things. Who would have ever thought going to space would have been a possibility? I'm talking about more than 60 years ago. I'm not talking about now, 10, 20 years ago. It's like, no, we're hardly driving. Where are we going to be flying? We weren't even flying from country to country. Where are we going to be flying to space? So, but people's creativity and people's radical thinking got us to where it is now. Just imagine if we needed to go from here to USA in the old days by ship. It would take us weeks to get there.
For sure.
Now it takes us a couple of hours. Why aren't we?
It's because of someone else's invention, right?
Yes. So a person who's a radical thinker. Look at Leonardo da Vinci. There's those special people. And the thing is, we sometimes look at them as...
Are you saying those people don't exist in today's world?
No, I'm
Or
not
that
saying
we're still clinging on those people?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's not broad enough. I think there are those special people that don't need a system. They already color out the lines from get-go. Then there's other people that require some form of guidance in shaping and molding the thinking. And it also comes back to what Xavier was saying about the systematic approach, whereby if you are confined to a certain environment, you only know that environment. How do you then know better? If I start speaking to you about drones and assembling a drone, you don't even know what a drone is in the first place. You've never seen an aeroplane. So talking about assembling a drone is going to be foreign language to you. But at least if you're exposed to a little part of something, you could then start thinking in a certain direction.
But let me
then you-
ask a question here. So how do you know what you know coming from the system that you come from?
How do I know what I know coming from the system that I come? So, because education is a tool to equip you on how to deal with life, right? There are breakouts that we go through, phases that we go through where we break out from the traditional system. We've been exposed to other things like internet. We start then figuring things out. But that's certain people, that's why I say there's certain people that would do that. They would figure things out, they have that curiosity. And that curiosity is what pushes things forward.
So how do we base an entire conversation on a system knowing that not everybody is going to have the awakening that you've had, that so many other people have had, but it's not the majority of the population?
But that's-
some people don't want to be awoken.
Exactly
That's
my
fair,
point.
that's
No,
And- and
I
also you
think
need-
sorry. I think we spoke about it before. Your environment shapes you, right? And let's talk about underprivileged communities. So think about it. living in an underprivileged community, and your environment alone, it's bleak, right? So now the education, you obviously get told, or you enroll in the school in the neighborhood, obviously, and then the education again is not up to standard, as I've mentioned when we just started, right? It's been passed on from generation to generation. So now already this kid has to finish school from, let's say, grade R or grade 1 to grade 12, right? In their environment, right? Through that, through the his schooling or her schooling, right? Bear in mind, as I said, I mentioned that it's an underprivileged area, right? The food that that person eats is also from, is not, there's no nutrition in there. So that also plays a huge role in the education, right? The place where the person stays in is also not conducive
Yeah.
because it's probably cramped or whatever. So I'm just speaking from underprivileged, from what I know and what I've seen as well.
I've got a question then, X. So what happens if one person who's had the exact experience you've described and they made it out and they became a success story?
Well, you do get those.
Does it then
you do get those.
invalidate the entire experience that for you to make it, you need to actually live a better condition than that one? But then, by the same token, you can still come back and say, oh, but what about Tommy, who's had the similar experience, but he made it out?
It's Tony.
My bad.
Oh my goodness.
So then what?
I think you need to stop. I think that's too much.
One, two,
No, come back to my question. So then
no,
what?
no, let me answer it then.
Okay.
Or do you want to answer?
No answer.
So it's come back to what I said earlier as well. There are those situations that do not fit in the whole point that we're making. The outliers, the exceptions to the rule. And we said that those exist. We know they exist. We're speaking here about majority. Because if we're looking at the general populace, you can count how many
Someone said, I
people-
don't believe in luck. I create my own luck.
How many people, yeah, we know who's there, but how many people would obviously say that as well? There's the whole point of this conversation is that we're looking at the entire population. We're looking at what everybody's going through. There's a handful of brilliant people that has made it beyond what our imagination could have fathomed in situations that seemed mere impossible to come out from. They've pushed through. Then there's those people that have also that's come from wealthy backgrounds, privileged backgrounds, that have not made it. So
Yeah.
we know that there are those outliers. But when we're looking at the entire system, we're saying, okay, but in terms of child A in this community, child B in that community, is there balance? Look at Japan. Look what happened to Japan. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There were bombs that were dropped in both those places. Nuclear weapons killed hundreds of thousands of people. Left trauma, radiation, a lot of things, big problems.
Generational damage.
Generational damage. But
Yeah.
guess what happened? Not long after the bombs and after the dust has settled, they made sure to rebuild schools. They understood the importance of education. Look at Japan now. They are one of the countries that has the highest literacy and education rate in the world. And the opposite side, or the flip side about that, is the crime levels are much lower in Japan than countries that have a lower education rate. So there's a direct correlation as well. Again, we need to understand what system is being employed there. Because I know, like in some of the Asian countries like China, I think in part of Japan as well, those guys at toddlers, they already fidgeting with computers, with phones. They're building things, they're putting things together, they're doing coding. That then sets up this generation of tech people. If you're looking at China now, I think they're one of the countries that has the most they have a rapid increase of millionaires and billionaires more than any other country in the world.
But how rigid and monotonous is their schooling system?
You see, again, there's definitely flaws there, but then there's a lot of positives because there's not you can't well, not let me say you can't, but there's positives that you can find in every situation,
Yeah,
and there's
for
negatives
sure.
you can find in every situation. So I'm not going to agree on everything that they do, but we can definitely say that in this day and age, we look at things and we're like, I like your beard, I like your color of your hair.
Why do you like my beard?
Why not? If not, why not? I like your specs. So why don't I merge everything and because I think it would do me justice. And then I would combine everything to make the perfect system. It's not gonna be perfect, but you're gonna try to mold it to what you want it to be.
So I think, for me, I don't think it's a government thing. I think it's more of societal norms that stops progression. And I'll keep it light on this one.
Please do. But I actually feel you should keep it heavy.
So, in underprivileged communities, right, and I know a few, how many times are the guys that are trying to get out, study, be innovative, brought down because it doesn't fit what that society entails? So I don't think we should look at the government. I don't think we should look at the system. I don't think we should look at what the past experiences were. I see time and time again where there's these youngsters, brilliant at sport, brilliant at math, whatever the case may be, but because they're standing out, there's no place for them where they're supposed to feel comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think
agree.
it's the government or the system of the day that's created it. That's society. You can go, Christmas is coming up now, gents. The guys that don't fit in the family are the O's that's parking outside. The guys that Uncle Maurice feels this guy embodies me and emulates me, he's got a seat at the table.
Yeah.
And that has got absolutely nothing to do.
Those guys have
With-
to pay, by the way.
That's got absolutely nothing to do with their ability or not. So I don't think it's the system. I've never thought it's the system. I think it's the society. That's my take on it.
It's a mental undertaking to even take it further. For the mere fact that we still have families that actually need you to have some form of material possession for you to sit on that table and have
Society,
some
it's family.
important matters to discuss. Otherwise, if you don't have some form of material possession, then you do not qualify. Because you could be highly educated, and if you're not employed, they could still look at you as a failure. They
So-
could say, "Oh well, you're well educated, but
You're
no
not-
one is hiring you."
You're not going to be Umalume. They're going to call for the negotiations. Nah,
Exactly.
Bottle on the table.
you're not that guy.
That's
And even if
that's
you had
what's
to
up.
come to Malume and you're different and you're like, no, but culturally, I love this girl and I want to see her, and culturally, I need you, is like, nah, you don't fit in the family values. Guys, it's society. That's my thing.
Yeah, okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I do applaud that. I appreciate the comment.
So you know who we're missing here as well is Grace. Remember, Grace is also a teacher, and she would have fit in perfectly
Yeah.
for this
yeah.
topic.
You know,
Remember,
it always segues into one another, you know, and we will get her opinion definitely, Grace. You are wanted on the show. So, back to your point, Tony. The government of the day in any country is responsible for a few things. That's why we have a Department of Education.
Not society, though.
No, we'll come to that. We
Yeah,
have a
we will.
Department of Education, we have a Department of Minerals and Water and Trade and Industry and all those type of things. So they are responsible for parts of education, making sure that we have a literacy rate that matches up with the rest of the world, right? And there's a culture in each country. Now, people like to, we always have this discussion and this debate. Culture is, in my opinion, a thing of a specific group of people in a location, a specific location in a given point in time. If we look at the cultural practices that we followed 10, 15 years ago with our dress code, it's totally different to what we're following now, right? because
Yeah.
the times have changed. There are certain things that have remained the same. So people are stuck on this notion that once something is defined as a culture, it needs to remain that way, and that is preventing us from progressing in life. So the problem about our communities is that there definitely is something that happens because of lack of education. People think that person that's going through to school, studying late at night, carrying so many books, wearing spectacles, and now we tease them and we call them funny names and all that type of stuff. And then
Oh, that one sat well with you there.
so what then happens is that the people, the majority who are the uneducated people, are then looking down on the people who are trying to make it out there. So there is definitely a culture that is bringing people down, but that again comes back to the education. So everything will fall back to
Because there
education.
was a foundation that was set.
Exactly, to say in this
Yeah,
community,
this
this is
is-
what we do.
You know what,
We're
Maurice?
all about violence. We're all about drugs, alcohol, and all that type of stuff. That's our trade. We trade in
Let me tell you
substances,
something,
illicit
Miguel.
substances. All right. Yeah, can you close up there, right?
Oh, you have got to become the change you want to see.
Okay, Mahatma Gandhi.
No, for real.
Yeah.
I hear you talk about people, right? Even if you had all the money in the world, you couldn't possibly change everyone in this world. You need to change yourself. Once you can change yourself, then everyone else will change themselves and become what they want to see. You guys spoke about a lot of things. I mean, back then, you needed to have a cheese scope for people to take you serious in the boardroom, right? You couldn't be taken serious if you had a nose ring or whatever the case.
On the wrong side.
But you know what we're doing these days? We're coming with nice hairstyles.
Yeah.
We're coming with nose piercings.
Yeah.
We're coming with neck tattoos.
Yeah.
And we will speak the same sense, if not more.
Yeah.
Then what? Are you going to judge us by our appearance or by what comes out of our mouth? Or by our delivery? So you need to become the change you want. Otherwise, you're going to fail living someone else's life. You need to become yourself. And if you need to acquire your own education independently without being told this is what you need to study or this is what you need to do in order for you to be there. It's not going to work out because even when you get there, you're going to realize that it's not what you wanted. Well, it's because you didn't choose the journey yourself. Someone chose the journey for you. So be careful.
Yeah, man.
Independence is what I'm preaching here.
Exactly. I think we're all preaching that. But on that note, guys, it was a pleasure. We definitely have to do this again, Tony. I think there's a lot of unspoken words. I could feel you holding back there, the thunder fist. But thank you so much for joining us. It was really a pleasure having you on the show, guys. The
Thank
PMA
you for
show.
having me, guys.
Yeah, man. We spoke about education, and we just hope to bridge some of the gaps, and we hope to have a chat with you again, Tony.
100%. We jump from education to society.
If not, why not?
It is what it is.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. Short.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks.
Cheers.